Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be my eyeshadow palette declutter for 2017. In case you are new to my channel or you missed my previous videos, I've been decluttering my makeup collection, so I will link all of the other declutter videos in the description box below in case you want to check out more of them. But I thought it was time to tackle my eyeshadow palette drawer because it is getting way too full. I honestly can barely fit them in here, which is definitely a sign that I need to go through and declutter it. So I'm just going to go through and choose the palettes that I'm no longer using, or just palettes that I don't gravitate toward, and pass them along to family and friends or donate them. I don't think there's too many that are expired because I'm usually pretty good about keeping up with that, but if there are, then I'll just toss those. I did recently go cruelty-free with my makeup, but I'm not going to get rid of all of the products in my collection that aren't cruelty-free because I already spent the money on them. I'm just going to continue to only purchase from brands that are cruelty-free in the future. Okay, so right here in the front I have my ColourPop Pressed Powder Single Shadows. These are some of my favorite, and I'm not usually a single shadow type of person. I usually prefer like actual palettes, but ColourPop totally changed my mind when they released these. The formula is one of my personal favorites. I really think the mattes are very blendable and the shimmer shades are really gorgeous as well. So they are in MAC palettes, but they're all from ColourPop. I just put them in these palettes a while ago when I was trying to figure out how to organize them. So I have a few in these palettes and then I have a few in the actual palettes that they came in. But I'm not going to declutter any of these just because they are some of my favorite shadows, and if you guys haven't tried them yet, I definitely recommend them. Next I have the Tartelette in Bloom palette from Tarte. I did have the original Tartelette palette, but I ended up decluttering it a while ago. I just didn't really like that palette and I didn't gravitate toward it, and I don't know why, but I feel like I like this one so much better. I think it might be because it has a mix of shimmer and matte shadows, but I also feel like the formula is so much better than the original for some reason. I think it's supposed to be the exact same, and it might be, but for some reason I just like this one so much better, so I am going to hang on to this one as well. So I do have a few blush palettes in here as well, but I just thought I would include them in this video. So this one is the Jaclyn Hill Becca collaboration, and it is one of my favorite products of all time. The packaging is beautiful, but the formulation of Becca Cosmetics face products is just one of my favorites. They are very smooth and blendable, and I love all of the colors in this palette, so I'm definitely going to hang on to it. Okay, so this palette is from Decca Scarlet. It is like a full face palette, so it comes with eyeshadows, face products, and lip products, and I really like it. Decca Scarlet is actually a palette subscription service. I did a video with them a while ago, but I still love this palette. The formula of all of the products is very soft and blendable and beautiful. I truthfully expected it not to be the best quality, but I was blown away. You also get a lip pencil and an eye pencil, so it's a really cool service. I am definitely a fan of the colors in this palette, so I'm going to hang on to it. The next one in here is the Benefit Cheekathon palette. I have had this one for a little while, but I'm definitely going to hang on to it. I do take it with me whenever I travel or I go on vacation just because it has a bunch of different options in one palette, and it comes with a bronzer and a few blushes. I will have to say that I feel like the formula in this palette is not the same as like the single blushes and single bronzers. It just feels a little bit more dry and less pigmented, but I feel like I can kind of work with it just because it is so convenient to take with me. Okay, this palette just comes with single shadows from Ofra Cosmetics. I got it in a BoxyCharm, and the shadows are okay quality. They're not bad, they're not my favorite, so I think I'm actually going to go ahead and pass this palette along to somebody else. I would keep the empty palette to put single shadows in, but whoever I give this to will probably need it for those shadows as well. So hopefully somebody else can get more use out of them. Again, I don't think they're terrible shadows, but I just have so many other single shadows that I like better. I just recently got this eyeshadow palette from Milani. It is one of my current favorites. It's very affordable, and they have a few different color options, but I've only personally tried this one. I really like it. I have to wear it more because I just recently added it to my collection, but it has definitely become one of my favorites. So I have two palettes from Essence Cosmetics. I have the All About Bronze palette and the All About Nudes palette. I really like this formula because it's very soft and buttery. I don't know what I was expecting the first time I tried it, but I didn't expect it to be that good, and I really do like them, so I am going to hang on to them. This one is the Tarte Be Your Own Tarteist palette, and I've had it for a little while. It's so beautiful, and I like how these palettes come with 6 shadows and 1 full-size blush, especially because the price point is usually only a little bit higher than the price of a full-size blush. So you are getting a really good value. I used this one for a while and I really loved it, but I haven't touched it in a very long time, so it is time to declutter it and pass it along to somebody else. This one is also from Tarte. It is the Poppy Picnic palette, and I think it is so cute. I love this palette so much. Like, I want to keep it in my collection just because it looks like something I would use, but truthfully I never use it. I don't know why. I just have so many other matte shadows that I reach for over this one. It's a little bit strange how they included a shimmery blush with matte shadows, just because sometimes the shimmer from the blush can fall out into the matte shadows, but otherwise it's like a perfect palette. I feel like it's great for everyday wear, and and I feel like one of my sisters would really like this one. Okay, this one is the STILA Eye Wonder palette that I got in a holiday set a while ago. This one I've been hanging on to through, I think it's made it through like 1 or 2 declutters. But honestly, again, I just never reach for it, which is sad because the colors are so beautiful. I always mean to reach for it, and then whenever I'm like filming these videos, I realize that I haven't used it in a while. So I think it's time to finally go ahead and declutter this one. Unfortunately, the colors are so pretty, but I'm sure somebody else will actually get use out of it. This one is from Buxom. It is the Dolly's Wild Side palette. It's one of my favorite eyeshadow palettes of all time. I feel like the colors in this palette just go really well together. I use every single one of them except the purple one. I don't use that one too often, but the formula of these shadows is so good. If you guys are just looking to try or add a new palette to your collection that's really beautiful and kind of focuses more on like rosy tones, I would definitely recommend this one. So this one is the custom Buxom palette that I actually created. You can buy the shadows separately, or you can build your own palette and save a few dollars. So I just grabbed some warm shadows. I actually need to break this one back out. I'll probably put it in my everyday makeup drawer for either May or June, just because I feel like these shadows remind me a lot of summertime. So I do have a few ColourPop palettes. They actually sell these shadows as singles, but sometimes they come out with limited edition palettes that you can actually get for a discounted price. So this one is my favorite. This one's from the Sand collection. It is still available at the time that I'm filming this video because sometimes they are limited edition, but I love this one. The shadows are just really warm and beautiful, and I reach for it all the time. Sometimes I will put the single shadows in other palettes, and sometimes I'll keep them in the palette they came in. I do have a few empty ones. You can actually take out the middle compartment and then put the single shadows in here, and it will hold a lot more than 4, which is just a good tip that I saw online and some of you guys told me about. Here's an example. So instead of holding just 4 shadows, if you take that middle part out, it will hold 10 shadows, which is really nice if you don't want to purchase separate palettes. This one actually just holds single shadows that I like, but I don't reach for super often, so I didn't want to declutter them, but I just don't use them enough to keep them in my everyday makeup drawer. This one is actually my least favorite out of all of their pressed shadows. I just don't reach for these colors, and the formula just doesn't seem as good as their other shadows. So I don't know if it is the same or if they improved it, but since I never reach for it, I'm just going to go ahead and pass this one along to somebody else. This one is from Makeup Revolution. It is the Iconic 3 palette, which is pretty much a dupe for the Urban Decay Naked 3 palette. The texture is a little bit different and some of the shades are slightly different, but I actually purchased it to try it out and I really like the formula. I am going to hang on to this one for now because I haven't used it a ton. I've used it a little bit, and so far what I've used I really like, so I am going to keep this one. This one is also from Makeup Revolution. It is their Essential Matte Eyeshadow palette, and I don't like this one as much as I like the Iconic 3. I feel like the matte shadows aren't as nice as the shimmer shadows from Makeup Revolution. I actually haven't tried a ton of their palettes, so I don't know if that's always the case. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and declutter this one just because I don't usually prefer it over any of my other matte shadows, so I think somebody else might like it more than I have, especially because I only used it a few times. This is probably my favorite Makeup Revolution palette that I've personally tried. These shadows are so beautiful. They take a little bit of extra work to blend compared to some of my other shadows, but for the price, it is honestly so worth it. This is definitely a good option and I would recommend grabbing it. This one is the LORAC Unzipped palette. I haven't had it for too long. I think I got it in the fall time and I really like it. Again, I'm going to have to put this one in my everyday makeup drawer just because the shadows are really beautiful. They're really warm, the majority of them, so I feel like I will get a lot of use out of it during the summertime. I'm definitely keeping my Modern Renaissance palette. The shadows are really beautiful and honestly, I don't find myself reaching for it as much as I would like. I feel like for me, it's not necessarily a standalone palette, which I don't know, that might be weird. I feel like I usually have to supplement it with other shadows, but it just might be because I'm not super into some of the shades in the palette right now. I do feel like there are a lot of beautiful colors in here that I will love to wear during the summertime, so I am going to keep this one and keep playing around with it. Formula is honestly amazing. I think it's one of the best formulations that I have personally tried, so I definitely don't have any problems with the formula. I think it is a beautiful palette. Okay, this one's from NARS. I've had it for a very long time. I think it's the only NARS eyeshadow palette that I've ever tried, and I haven't been impressed with it for a very long time. I honestly don't know why it's still in my makeup collection because it has been forever since I've actually used it. I think I kept it because it was one of my first high-end eyeshadow palettes and I did spend a little bit of money on it, so I didn't want to part with it, but it's definitely time for this one to go. I've had it for way too long and I never reach for it. I don't know, you guys will have to let me know in the comments below if you've tried other NARS shadows and what you think of them. Honestly, this palette was just not very impressive. I don't know why it's lasted so long in my collection. I have this one from IBY Beauty. It's actually been in my everyday makeup drawer this month and I haven't reached for it, so I think it is time to declutter it. The shadows are really beautiful and the formula seems really nice, but I just have other shadows that are very similar in shade, in texture, so I want to pass it along so somebody else could get more use out of it. This one is from Ofra Cosmetics. It is their Party Purple Quad. I do have a bunch of quads in here as well. I just never reach for this one. I rarely wear it, so I'm going to declutter this one. So I have these little e.l.f. palettes. They come with 5 shadows, and I do like them. I feel like the quality is nice. It's not as good as maybe like their Matte for Matte 2 palette or their Prism palettes, but they're just like a good little palette to have in your bag or when you travel. And I do like the formula, but I don't really reach for these very often anymore. I really liked the more neutral one, but I really never wore the Saturday Sunsets one. So I'm just going to pass these ones along to somebody else because I do have other e.l.f. palettes that I really prefer over these. So these are the Studio Makeup On The Go eyeshadow palettes. I have one with neutrals and then one with purple shades. I really like these palettes. I want to keep them, but I feel like I just don't reach for them as much as I should. They came in a BoxyCharm and I really like them. I'm on the fence, but I really need to start letting go of some palettes. I haven't decluttered too many and I just don't reach for them as much as I would like to. So I am going to pass these along to somebody else. That being said, they are really good quality. I think the price point is a little bit high for them. I think they're around the $50 range, which is kind of expensive just because I feel like there are other palettes that are better quality. But if they appeal to you, definitely check them out. I think it was awesome. They were included in a BoxyCharm and I would keep them, but I need to be a little bit harder on myself. This one is the Meet Matrimony palette from The Balm. My husband thinks that this is like the funniest name for a palette in the entire world. He thinks it's hilarious, which it's kind of funny, but he obviously doesn't like read too many makeup names to see that companies always do like a funny play on words. Anyways, this is a good palette. I really like this one. I decluttered the first Meet Matte palette just because I wasn't reaching for it. It had some really unique colors in it that were really beautiful, but I feel like this one is a little bit more wearable. I like that all of the colors are matte and you get a pretty large pan size, and I reach for it all the time, so I am going to hang on to it. The Urban Decay Gwen Stefani palette is one of my favorites. I feel like I probably should declutter it because I don't reach for it as much as I should, but I love the packaging. It's so beautiful. I don't keep very many products based on packaging, and I think that's mainly the reason why I'm keeping this one, to be honest. I just love the packaging so much, and I do like Urban Decay shadows. I just feel like even for me, and I have a pretty light skin tone, some of the shadows are just way too light. There are so many similar shades in the palette. There are like some pops of color. I don't know. It's a good quality palette. I just don't know that the shadows, like the shades of the shadow, are something that I reach for super often, but I am going to hang on to it. Probably like maybe next time, by the time my next declutter rolls around, I'll be ready to part with it. In the meantime, I am going to try to get more use out of it. Okay, this one is the STILA Minimalist palette. It came in a trio that my sister got for me a while ago. I did declutter the other two because I wasn't really using them, and since that declutter video, I don't think I've really used this one. So I am going to declutter it, maybe see if my sister wants it since it was so nice of her to get it for me, but I haven't reached for it, so I'm going to pass it along to somebody else. This one is from the Solo Look. I always keep this one in all of my videos, but I never actually use it. I don't know why, I just never reach for it. So since I really just don't reach for it, I think it's time to go ahead and part with it and give it to somebody else. This one is my LORAC Pro Matte palette. This one has definitely seen better days. I tried to use it up last year and I didn't actually finish it, but I decided to keep it in my collection just because I do really like the shadows in this palette. It is looking rough. I'm sure one of these days I'll either hit pan on all of them or maybe use it up, but I just got so sick of it after using it last year, so I gave myself a little break. I think I'll break it back out for the summertime and use it more, so I am going to hang on to it. And then this one is the LORAC Pro To Go. I love the colors in this palette, especially for fall. It comes with shadows and then it has 2 blushes and a bronzer, so it's obviously great for travel. I mean, it's a little bit bulky and I don't know that these are the only shades you would need, but if you're pretty simple with your eyeshadow, this might just be a good palette to have on hand. I love the LORAC Pro formula. It's so good, and these are definitely colors that I wear, so I'm going to hang on to it. Okay guys, I'm actually going to split this video into 2 parts because it is so much longer than I thought, and I tried to edit it down, but it's still way too long. So this is part 1. I'm going to take a break right here, and these are all of the palettes that I've decluttered so far. So I'm at 15. My goal was 20, so I definitely think I'm going to be able to pass my goal for sure. So I will upload part 2 next week. I have a lot of other palettes to go through, so it'll probably be just as long as this video, but I promise I will upload it next week. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.